That's gender mainstreaming, to make sure everybody engages this issue. I'm not sure what is happening in government with regard to that. But I'm saying that's part of this planning. I was going to say, Sia, where are you? Oh, there you are. That's Sia Kebe. We work together at the foundation. Our colleague there, the engineer, I was going to say, can you please give your details to him so that we can then follow up on what you said. I'm quite sure that we should be able to talk to, I thought you were talking about Minister Nkunu Senzo. I'm quite sure we'd be able to talk to him about that. So I'm pleased if you can give him the details so we can follow up on the matters that you were raising. One of our colleagues talks about radical economic transformation. I'm not quite sure what is meant by it. No. The definition I've seen, the explanation I've seen of radical economic transformation that I've seen is the State of the Nation address of President Zuma in 2017, where he discusses this is radical economic transformation. So I read it and read to help me to understand. It's actually black economic empowerment. That's what it looks like to me. You see, take the Constitution says of the Republic, says we must produce a non-racial and a non-sexist South Africa. In our situation, I've never had a more radical statement. How do you produce a non-racial South Africa? Where all of these racial inequalities, and they are gone. That requires a radical transformation of the country to achieve a non-racial South Africa. How do you achieve a non-sexist South Africa? Same. What are the ways and means that you must use in order to get there? I very much agree that when, for instance, it said one of the policies that we must help to the emergence of black industrialists and so on. Some of our colleagues spoke here about there are young black business people. Sure, we must give the support. But the fact that we have 1,000, 10,000 successful black capitalists does not mean we've got a non-racial South Africa. We've got 10,000 successful black capitalists. That's black empowerment. That's part of what is described as radical economic transformation, not radical. Because the millions of us might remain very poor. 10 million are super rich, the rest of us remain poor. So I'm saying that I don't quite know what is meant by it. But you see, just to say, without the slogans, what is it that we do to produce a non-racial South Africa? What's step number 1 and 2 and 3? That I would understand. Maybe the people who are talking about this radical economic transformation might help in that context. You see, our colleague here talked about the land question and referred to the Freedom Charter. The Freedom Charter says the land shall be shared among those who work it. That's Freedom Charter. Yeah. I don't work the land. Why do I want to share it? Why did, according to Freedom Charter, let the land be shared among those who work it. So there's an, when the issue was raised, issue arose about our people have been dispossessed of land at the point of a gun, as our colleague said, quite correct. We must therefore dispossess land and to give it to our people. So I say, since when has the ANC had our people and not our people? It's not ANC. ANC doesn't have such a notion. As these ones are our people, these are not our people. It doesn't exist, not in ANC policy. It might exist in other organizations' policies. So the ANC has got to say, this land question has not been solved. The fundamental policy position of the ANC is spelled out in the Freedom Charter. The land shall be shared by all those who work it. If necessary, quite correctly, if necessary, expropriate without compensation, that's fine. But the objective, what's the objective of all of this? Program Director, it's 8:05. I think maybe we need indeed another session. Our last colleague asked questions about capacity investment, prescribed assets, and said quite correctly, when I was saying that the business plan strategy talks about investment for the next 3 years of 3.4 trillion rand, and he said, and that money comes from inside, he was quite correct. It's resources that are within the country. And the challenge really is to say, in the context of the social compact we're talking about, what is it that we do in order to release these resources? He talked about the PIC. The amount of money that is in the savings sector of the financial sector would be over 10 trillion rand. If you engage them, that's the savings sector, including PIC, engage that sector, what they are saying is that we are very ready to invest, bearing in mind that these are people's savings, but very ready to invest in infrastructure, but it can't be, we're not investing in something that the returns must be in a year's time. A 15-year project, 20-year project, fine. There is no hesitancy, as far as I can see, in engaging the business people. There is no hesitancy in terms of investing in infrastructure. They are saying, where are the instruments? What is it that you want me to invest in? What is this investable project? Bearing in mind that these are pension money, the money belongs to the workers. You can't just spend it anyhow. But where are these projects investable so that indeed these trillions that are within the savings sector can then be put in there? You know that very well, this thing about amending Section 28 was to create the space for the people in control of the pension funds indeed to invest in infrastructure. But I'm saying that from our own interaction, we haven't sensed any hesitation in terms of investing in investable projects to do with infrastructure. So they must be challenged to say, here is a project, it requires 1 trillion rand to invest, like this and that and the other, and let's see how they respond. But I'm saying that in our own engagement with these social sectors, including this one, we have not found any hesitation. And it's a very strange thing. That's why I'm saying it's very exciting. It's for the first time since '94 that you have the private sector in this country take the, basically white, take the posture that it is taking now. So there is a capacity problem. I was mentioning, for instance, that we talked to a lot of these economic ministers. And this is one of the questions that we would pose. Any problems with regard to capacity? In the context of recovery and reconstruction. And indeed, in some instances, they have said yes. This is the nature of a capacity, and we've tried from the foundation side to help with regard to that, to say they would look, for instance, one ministry said they are looking for economists of this kind. So we helped them, we found them, and the economists fortunately agreed to do that. So there is a capacity problem in various ministries, as there are serious capacity problems in local municipalities. But they can be addressed. Our colleague, the black engineer, as well as the accountant and the lawyer and the economist, were quite right. There is indeed a lot of capacity in the country. But in the end, let me just finish by saying this. You know, one day I get a call. I was at home. There's a missed call. So I can see on the phone. There's a missed call from a 021 number. That's Cape Town. So I phone the number. And the person in Cape Town responds. So I say to him, look, as a missed call, it came from that number. I don't know who called. So I am returning the call. So the person says, no, you see, this is the provincial headquarters of the ANC. That is a common number, so it could have been any extensions in the building, in the office. So I can't tell you who called. So I say, okay. And then he says, who are you? So I told him, I said, no, my name is so-and-so. What company do you work for? Now, this is the provincial headquarters of the ANC in Cape Town. That's a true story. But it tells you something about who are these people who have become members of the ANC. I said earlier when I spoke that the ANC must take very seriously. I said, we still have to engage very seriously the matter of the renewal that was decided at the last conference. The colleague was asking, what are we doing about, how do you deal with these careerists and so on? We've got to deal with that renewal challenge. The Veterans League of the ANC, has made a proposal about this, that they, because they are Veterans League, they are not interested in posts, in being re-elected or whatever. They would like to lead in the process of the implementation of that resolution, because they are Veterans League. And they've written down a very detailed plan as what they propose should be done. So it's not as though there are no ideas as to what is to be done to deal with these careerists. The matter, of course, has got to still to be approved by the National Executive Committee of the ANC, but the Veterans League National Executive Committee has volunteered and has given a detailed plan as to what they think should be done, including, that would include finding out whether this telephonist in Cape Town is really ANC. But thanks a lot, India.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much. How we wish Ubusi Slangu, ukwazi baungagugi. We're going to allow Premier Umakura to say a few words, and then we take it to the Mayor to give us concluding remarks. Honorable Premier.
I would like to say that on behalf of the Provincial Executive Committee, we will invite President Mbeki to a very focused lecture on the renewal of the ANC. And so I want to commit again to the PEC that it will not be for members of the Provincial Executive Committee alone. We have technology today. Anybody can join that lecture and participate as far as possible with the carrying capacity of the platform we will use. Because I can hear that a lot of concerns at the back of what you are raising here is the interest to get things right in the ANC. Not around election time, but to do that which will assure South Africans, future generations, that our country realizes its dreams, its vision. So that's the commitment I would like to make. And that is not for ANC members only. You know, the renewal of the ANC is not an interest for ANC members only. It's for many South Africans, as President Mbeki said, that it is in the interest of our country that the ANC sorts its house, it sorts itself out and puts its house in order. So we will do that. So those of you who are here tonight, we know you came as professionals and business people, and this evening wasn't open just for ANC members. But President Mbeki has summarized the case that the ANC is putting before South Africans about what we want to do, particularly with local government, and that if we don't pay sufficient attention to that, we can have great plans and great dreams
as we know, as you campaign around the country, one of the things that the people in the local communities will raise is jobs. In truth, those jobs are not going to come from local economic initiatives. Therefore, the absolute imperative to focus on what is happening to our economy, because it is that economy which must produce these resources. Hence this commitment in the local government manifesto. Now, I'm quite sure that all of us here, particularly our business and professional people, will be very familiar with what has been happening over the last 15, 18 months with regard to the matter raised in that sentence. Because something very positive happened in our country in the aftermath of the emergence of this COVID-19 pandemic, which is that for the very, very first time, in my view, for the very, very first time since 1994, we had all of these social partners at home more or less saying the same thing about what needs to happen. The government, business, labor, civil society, community constituency, all saying what the pandemic has said to all of us is that we need to join hands and work together to change the situation, to address the consequences of the pandemic, but also to say, what is it even before the pandemic came? We are already in trouble. What is it that we need to do together in order to address, I'm saying not just the consequence of the pandemic, but to go beyond that? What are these problems of unemployment and poverty, inequality that we had failed to solve? It's time that we get together to do something about that. This was the very, very first time you heard that being said in that way by everybody last year. And so you will recall that by September last year, the presidency, government, announced that an agreement had been reached at NEDLAC about a common approach to address these matters: unemployment, poverty, inequality. It was a common view and a common commitment by everybody. Let's join hands together and then do something together. And as a consequence of that, the following month, that was in September 2020, following month, October 2020, President Ramaphosa, you remember, convened the Joint Houses of Parliament, where he presented the South African Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, and said that it was an outcome of this consultation and discussion among the social partners at NEDLAC. A few months before that, which was in July 2010, one of the social partners, that is business, they had got together as part of that common commitment. Let's do something together to change these material conditions in our country. So they had got together, business, and produced their own plan, or rather what they called a strategy, an economic recovery strategy, which they published in July 2010. So they were first of the blocks, that social partner, business, July. Government followed in October.
I was just looking today. I think that my total sales, I think it's around 123,000, 124,000 if I remember right. And I made $20,000 sales.
Tragedy. Part of the tragedy is that since then, the social partners have not kept that commitment to work together to produce a plan which will be implemented, which will take this country away from this terrible past, which is impacting today on millions of our people, the poverty, the unemployment, etc. There has been virtually no movement with regard to that. So you have an economic reconstruction and recovery plan presented to the country by the President of the Republic, which contains very, very important commitments about what needs to be done to produce this positive economic outcome that we're talking about. It's very good. About infrastructure, about industrialization, about localization, about role of women, role of youth, and all of that. I think none of the social partners would disagree with that vision. This is what we want to do in order to get South Africa to where we need it to be. That document says, if we do all of these things that are in this economic reconstruction and recovery plan over the next 10 years, that will result in the addition of, well, it will result in the totality of 3.6 new jobs over 10 years. 3.6 million new jobs. And says that will be a growth rate of 3% a year. Now, the truth of the matter is that that growth rate and that job creation, positive as both are, will not take us out of where we are today. We'll probably find at the end of that 10-year period that the numbers of unemployed have not decreased and may very well have increased. The program itself, the plan, recognizes that because, for instance, it cites what the National Development Plan said. That the National Development Plan said the economy must grow at a rate of 5.4%, not 3%. I think that's an acknowledgement that something more needs to be done. The business strategy was a 3-year plan, which will be followed later by other 3-year plans. But the first 3-year plan, they said would increase GDP by 1 trillion rand, create 1.5 million jobs, and increase tax revenues by 100 billion rand a year. And identified sectors of the economy where we had to focus. In truth, if you look at those figures, the figures produced by business about what is likely to happen if we implement their plan are better. The business figures are better. So, fortunately, as I was saying earlier, quite early on during 2020, all of the social partners said more or less the same thing about what needs to happen. And therefore, all of them insisted on the need to have a social compact. That we need a social compact to produce a common plan which would be binding on all of us. And that is why you then find in this local government manifesto of the ANC this sentence which I read to you, that we must urgently finalize a social compact between the social partners to achieve our country's fundamental social transformation, to reduce and eradicate the plague of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. That, in truth, is where the resources will come from. If this is done, what is said in this particular sentence, if it is done as it has to be done, then we will generate the resources that are needed in order to deal with these problems, which are very legitimately raised in the localities, in the local municipalities. Since I was reading about water, about roads, about, and so on. So I'm saying, therefore, that the reason this manifesto contains that sentence is a commitment. It's a commitment by the ANC to say, at last we must move on this matter, which is going to require that all its social partners get together. They take all of the different plans that they've produced and put them together and say, what is it that we agree, which will be binding. One of the, I think, outstanding things that has happened as a result of this common approach is that you have business collectively saying, we propose this program, economic development and so on, covering all of these various sectors, and we commit as a private sector to invest 1 trillion rand in the South African economy for 3 years, over a period of 3 years. Comrade Provincial Chair, as is the very, very first time in all the years of our democracy that business has made a statement of that kind. To say we pledge to invest 1 trillion rand over 3 years. And they say in that program, the public sector, government, and so on.
All right, so let's leave former President Thabo Mbeki at this point. And